What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're going to do State of the Game for the Pokemon Trading Card game as of August 2021, with the newest set being Chilling Reign. And the last time we did a State of the Game video was about 3 months ago. And a lot has changed, you know, not just with the set, but I was rewatching my last State of the Game video, which I will link down below if you guys want to watch that to lead up into this one. But in that last one, it was before I graduated school, and I was talking about my content kind of slowing down, and now we're picking up more than ever. And I was also still using a green screen behind me, and I was talking about how I want to make a more intimate space for these kinds of videos, and here we are. So, in the State of the Game videos, I like to talk about how I'm enjoying the format of the trading card game, specifically standard format. The card design, the set that we have now in standard, what's on the horizon, if I think the format is fun, healthy, good to play competitively, good to play casually, all of these things. So that's what we'll talk about today. So I left you guys off with Battle Style State of the Game last time, and Battle Style started to have some improvement. We started to see some improvement with Battle Styles in the Pokemon TCG standard format. VMAX is finally being strong enough to overpower tag teams sometimes. Pikarom still being one of, if not the best deck in the standard format. Urshifu VMAX also showing its dominance. And outside of that, still a lot of tag team Pokemon being played. We saw Tempozard with Reshiram Charizard, ADP Zacian, Pikarom, and Raichu. Yeah, so Luke Metal Zacian. We still saw a lot of tag teams being played. I think we are finally moving into a part of the Sword and Shield era where they're actually succeeding with their VMAX designs enough that the VMAXs are overpowering the tag teams a bit. And it is always weird to see the crossover period between two blocks, you know, between, like, we had X, Y, and then Sun and Moon came out, but we had that period where X and Y and Sun and Moon were together. Even more weird now with Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield together, because there's so many clashing like monstrous mechanics between the tag teams and the VMAXs and whatnot. So with Chilling Reign, this is the most I've enjoyed a standard format since before last year's rotation. So probably in about a year, this is the first time I've wanted to sit down and play a lot of Pokemon TCG online. Specifically because, you know, we're only playing online when we're playing standard format. So I've actually enjoyed entering tournaments, metagaming, building decks, just playing the versus ladder. I remember tweeting out a few weeks after Chilling Reign came out that this was the first time since I can remember that I sat down to not make content and played hours of PTCGO just because I was finding the decks fun, the matchups fun, experimenting with different lists and text to be interesting and giving me a unique experience for this standard format that was interesting and kept my attention, which we hadn't had for quite a while. The game actually has some depth to it again. We're seeing a multitude of varying Pokemon being played, whether those are regular basic stage 1, stage 2 Pokemon, or rule box Pokemon, which are Vs, and then rule box Pokemon, which are V Maxes, and some GXs and tag team GXs still seeing play at the forefront of the metagame that has developed through these online tournaments. I think Team Up through Chilling Reign, I personally would say this is the best standard format we've had for the 2020-2021 season. And I'm actually upset that this will be the shortest segment of this standard format year due to the set releases. There's about 2 months between Chilling Reign and Evolving Skies, so the Team Up through Chilling Reign is actually much shorter than the Team Up through Darkness Ablaze and the Team Up through Vivid Voltage standard formats, and those were quite dreadful. I ranked them as the worst formats I've ever played in the Pokemon trading card game. But Team Up through Chilling Reign I've enjoyed. Are there toxic elements? Yes. Are there toxic elements in a lot of formats, in a lot of card games? Yes, it's hard to escape that players will find one or two good cards or combos and try to use them to their advantage as much as they can. And I think that toxicity in the current standard format is mostly Gengar Mimikyu Tag Team's Horror House GX. Finally having a great partner in standard, which is Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, typically also being paired with Alchemy VMAX. But aside from the dunks, the games that just end quickly because you did not have another basic and your opponent went Horror House GX into Poltergeist and end the game quickly, I actually think Horror House GX and Poltergeist adds a great depth to the game outside of those turn 1 wins or those turn 2 losses where you just get benched out. I personally think that Horror House GX adds a great depth to the game because I often find that players that hold on to their Horror House GX and wait for plays later in the mid to late game have stronger plays with the Horror House as opposed to the players who just default to using it turn 1. So I've enjoyed playing Shadow Rider Alchemy with Gengar Mimikyu because I feel it's a deck with a lot of options that allows me to express my skill, and it's also quite fun to play even though we are still playing with 3 prize Pokemon. Now my opinion on 3 prize Pokemon has not changed. I still do think mechanically it's a large mistake and fundamentally changes the game when the game for 25 years has had 6 prize cards being the win condition, and then we have these Pokemon that you basically have to play because that's how strong they are, and they give up half of the prizes, and it turns into both players needing to play these 3 prize monstrosities because we've gotten to a point where most of the time they're just so much more consistent than single prizers that single prizers cannot outtrade them like we have in the past when we had 2 prize Pokemon versus single prize Pokemon. With that being said, I think this format is healthy. We see a lot of decks and players, content creators like myself, Zach Lesage, Azul GG, that make these power rankings and best deck videos, whether that's monthly or weekly or bi-weekly. We've been seeing decks move in and out and up and down of these tier lists, which is very nice to see that we have a metagame that, you know, a lot of the decks are mainstays. You know, you got ADPZ, you got Shadow Rider, you got Ice Rider, you got Urshifu. Those aren't leaving the top 10, but we do have other decks going in and out, like Spirit Tomb, Rapid Strike Malamar, Weavile GX Dark Box, Malamar VMAX. It's nice to see some decks moving in and out as some decks become more or less popular, and there is a wide variety of decks you can play. Now, the wide variety of decks that you can play are typically restricted to VMAX decks or some of the tag team decks, but we can't really control that. Pokemon Creatures Inc. wants to push the V and VMAX mechanic, and that's what happens in every card game. The special mechanic of the set or the block or the format is made stronger by the creators on purpose to try to push them into being what the players decide is the metagame, or just what naturally occurs to be the strongest decks and the strongest cards. But removing the fact that I think 3 prizers are a mechanical error on the designer's part, I do think we have a pretty good format. Although it's faster and more volatile than classic Pokemon TCG without the VMAXs and tag teams, I do think we are in a good format. I actually encourage people to play the game. If you've noticed, my videos recently have been more geared towards beginners and geared towards grabbing people in and trying to get them to play the game, because I do think people should play the game now. I was a little hesitant in the Team Up Through Darkness Ablaze and Team Up Through Vivid Voltage because I thought that was personally such a bad time to play the game, and I didn't want to try to bring in new people and either they're frustrated themselves or they see streamers and content creators and top players either not playing the game or getting frustrated with the game. But now we're actually at a point where I think it's a good sign when looking internally to myself that I'm trying to actively get more people to play the game. I think that's a good sign that I'm actually enjoying the game and it's not just a product of me creating content. Because you'll notice I've created content throughout the entire pandemic, throughout all of these formats that I thought were pretty bad, and possibly the worst the game has ever seen. And I've created content throughout all of it, but I'm now actively wanting more people to start playing or come back to the game, or give the game another chance, because I do think it's quite fun right now. There are a lot of decks. It's pretty cheap to get into, but I won't get into the expense and that kind of stuff because that's not really what this video is about. But the state of the game right now, I think it's a fine format. Is it perfect? No, it's far from it. Are the mechanics perfect? No, they're the biggest thing holding the game back, is that the three prize mechanic. But I think this is a fine format. I'm not sure if it's one I want to go back to and, you know, replay again in years to come, but I'm also, there's some good moments and some good decks and some things that I'll probably look back and remember fondly. I definitely don't foresee myself looking back at this one and thinking that it was absolutely a mess. I do think it's good. I honestly think it might be better than what our post-rotation format will be, just because in post-rotation we don't have a couple cool cards that allow in-depth plays like Reset Stamp. Just to name one big one that we'll be losing in post-rotation. But I think generally the game's heading in a better direction. I think we could have done without the first year of Sword and Shield sets, and they could have just skipped right to battle styles and get to the good stuff. But that honestly does happen a lot of times with Creatures Incorporated. You'll notice, even looking back to the original EX era in 0304, that a lot of their original EXs were just not good. They weren't good enough to play for the 2 prizes they gave up, and eventually they got into better EXs and realized that they needed to give them a little boost. And we saw that happen with VMAXs. You know, the original VMAXs just don't get played competitively. Snorlax VMAX, Morpeko VMAX, Lapras VMAX. Here and there you'll see them get played, but they're obviously not on the same level as the VMAXs coming out a few sets later. So that I do think the first 4 to 5 Sword and Shield sets we probably could have done without them. Just skip right to battle styles, because when we got the battle styles there was a noticeable design change. There was more in-depth, more thinking to be done. It looked like the game designers were now really designing the game for the players, as opposed to designing a game that people might play. So I do feel like this is more of a curated format right now, although I do believe the creators make formats based on the blocks or based on the main series video game. So they do create Sword and Shield cards with Sword and Shield cards in mind, not necessarily thinking about Sun and Moon cards most of the time or all of the time. But to end the video here, not to make it too long formed, I do enjoy the current standard format. It's not the best I've played in, it's definitely not the worst. I've been having fun with it. I'm looking forward to Evolving Skies. There will be a short time where we play Team Up through Evolving Skies for the POG 2021 tournament, and from there we'll be going into post-rotation. And I'll have some exciting news about the next tournament I am holding online regarding post-rotation. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And let me know what you guys think about the standard format down in the comments below. I love to hear from you all. And thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching. If you're still here 13 minutes in, you're probably somebody that watches all my videos and watches to the end. So just want to say I really appreciate you guys. If you need any of my links, they're in the description down below. My Twitter, Patreon, Twitch. Be sure to subscribe if you've been enjoying the videos and you haven't already. And shout out to my wonderful sponsors that help keep the channel running, PotownStore.com and PokemonCard.io. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.